welcome back to my YouTube channel. A lot of you guys have been asking for more book content on my YouTube, and not a lot of my following is probably reads, so I don't do much, but I thought today I would do a full review on my opinion on Stephanie Caraval's books, which is the Caraval trilogy and the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. I literally binged them all, so I thought I'd give you guys a full review, everything you need to know before I get into it. If I think it's going to be good, spoiler-free review. If you want to get into reading, these are the books you need to start with, okay? These are YA romancy fantasy, so I'd say from about, you could probably read about age 12 to a grown-up. So many adults that read these. There are so many adults and young adults and teens and pre-teens that will love this book and do love these books. Even if you're not reading and you're still watching this, please just pick up one of these books and I promise you, you will be obsessed. You'll be hooked the second you open the book. I don't think I can ever get over these two trilogies, and they are connected by a little. You can read them separately. You don't have to read it, but if you're going to read them separately, please, I beg, read the Caraval trilogy first. I'll get into it a bit more why later. Starting off with the Caraval trilogy. Here are the books. They are so cute. I could explain this trilogy, it feels like you're being transported into a different world. When I was reading this, when I thought back to last week, I didn't remember what I ate for tea. I just literally remembered everything I saw in these books. The writing, the way Stephanie writes her books, you feel like you're in them. They're described so perfectly that even if you have a bad imagination, no, you literally see a whole different world. It makes you forget reality, and I literally couldn't cope with the thought of reality after reading these books. They were that incredible. This is, like I said, a YA fantasy, so there is no spice, no smut, but they are fantasy books with a subplot of romance. So they are not all romance for people that don't really like romance. They like a bit of fantasy, a bit of a plot. So these are so good, and I used to read books that were like basically does no plot romance with spice in it, and I thought that's what all books are like, and then I discovered like YA fantasy books. What the hell have I been doing? I don't know what I was thinking, to be fair, and now these type of YA books are my favourite. And if you think you're not going to enjoy a book because it doesn't have spice in it, and you don't think the romance is going to be good because it doesn't have spice, you're insane, because the romance is always so much better. It just hits different when it's not all about that sort of stuff, because like, oh my god, I just love it so much, especially like the enemies to lovers trope. So in books there's like different tropes, you know, enemies to lovers, there's like friends to lovers. But for now, let's talk about Caraval. The first book, it took me a while to get into this book. I was like 100 and something pages in when I was like proper hooked. I was like, okay, this is good, okay, I can't wait to read the rest of the trilogy, because I always buy them before I've even read the first book. So I was like, okay, I have to read them all, I'm gonna carry on. And honestly, the second books were my favourite. The first book follows characters Scarlett and Julian. They're the two main characters. Book are following Tella and Dante, but this book was so good. Caraval is about a magical, mystical game called Caraval. It's kind of like a fun fair, like a proper fun fair vibes, okay? But everything is magic and everything is a game, okay? This book plays tricks on your mind. I was shocked. Like, everything I've thought I believed in was a lie. It's insane. The plot twists, the tension between the two characters. Oh, this book literally had me in a chokehold for so long, every year. And the master of Caraval, called Legend, runs the whole game. When I say game, I don't mean like a board game or a game someone's playing on the phone. I mean in real life game. You go to the island that Caraval is on. You play games to win the prize. I don't even know how to explain it. It's so difficult to explain this book. Must read if you like reading. It's just a must read. And if you want to get into reading, I definitely recommend this trilogy. I was struggling to explain it on my own, so I'm going to read you guys the back of the blurb and try and convince you to read this book. Remember, it's all a game. What happens beyond this gate may frighten or excite you, but don't let any of it trick you. That's a very important part. Once a year, the famous master Legend hosts Caraval, open to those who have been invited. This year, the week-long game is on Legend's glittering sun name in Spanish. It's Island de los Seda. Okay, it's on an island. Okay. The winding streets are an elaborate snow-covered maze, and people are never who they seem. At midnight on the first day, the show begins and the visitors become players. Them is aiming for the coveted prize, a single wish. All they must do is unravel the mystery of Caraval, but in a game where danger hides behind every charming smile, winning isn't without a loss. Wish might be their last. I don't know why I struggled to read that so much. It put me under pressure, okay? I can read so fast in my head, but when I'm reading out loud, I don't know what's wrong with me. So many plot twists in it. Same with the second book. I'm going to pop up some fan art pictures on the screen because fan art is what gets me proper hooked on the book. I always search fan art before I read a book. But do not search in fan art for any of the characters apart from the ones I've shown on the screen, because you will be spoiled something that I spoiled for myself and I wanted to cry. One of the main things that is in this book, I spoiled myself for it and I was so upset. So do not, whatever you do, search up any sort of fan art because it always spoils it. Every single time I search on Pinterest Caraval fan art, you'll be spoiled, okay? So do not do that. It's so good. It made me feel like I was in a completely different world and made me forget reality. So I definitely recommend picking this book set up if you want to get into reading. But it is a fantasy romancy, so it can be confusing, you know? It is truly, truly amazing and I loved it so much. It was a little bit confusing at first. Like I said, it took me about 100 and something pages to properly get it all and like properly get into it, but it was so worth it when I did because do you read that? There is one more novella which I have mixed opinions about. You do not have to read this book, Spectacular. I'm pretty sure this is pretty new. I think it literally came out in like November or something. Spectacular, a novella that follows Teller, and have beef about this book. You don't have to read it, but if you really love the series and you want to pick it up to read like a little extra bit, you can. I feel like it was kind of unnecessary and I didn't like the way the story went. It's literally just 100 pages, but it's definitely worth the read. This one's a bit less YA. It's got no spice in it, but it's very tension, okay? Okay, anyway, but this book, I liked it, I enjoyed it, it was worth the read, but it wasn't, but I don't know, I had mixed opinions about it. But it's definitely worth the read if you want to read a little bit extra after you're still not over the trilogy itself. If you want to read, I wanted to read this, I didn't even know about Caraval, I wanted to read this book so bad. But then my book bestie told me to read Caraval first, and I was like, can't really be bothered, because I knew nothing about Caraval, I just knew I really wanted to read this. So grateful that she did, because I wouldn't have enjoyed reading Caraval as much if I had read this one first, because this is set after Caraval and one of the characters from the last two books in the Caraval trilogy are a main character in this. And I wouldn't have liked reading Caraval if I didn't read this first. It's kind of like going back in time and it wouldn't have made sense if I'd read this one first. But you still can if you've already read this and you still want to read Caraval, but now you're thinking that it won't make sense. It will make perfect sense and everything will be fine. And you will still enjoy Caraval, but you won't enjoy the last two books as much. They'll kind of annoy you in a way after reading this. But this is my favourite trilogy of all time. This trilogy beats the Cruel Prince trilogy, which is saying something for me because that book has been my favourite trilogy, The Cruel Prince, for so long, and no book I've read since has been able to beat it. I just can't stop thinking about this book. It's amazing. It's so good. It makes you feel like you're being transported into a magical, beautiful, I really need some more describing words, mystical, snowy, amazing world, and again, it made me forget reality. I preferred this trilogy to Caraval. I was hooked first thing on this book. Beautiful. So we have Once Upon a Broken Heart, A Curse, oh, nope, The Ballad of Never After, and The Curse of True Love. Starting with the first book, this took me a minute to get into two. I loved it so much. It was such a masterpiece, and a lot of people say they read the first one and they didn't continue the series because they didn't like it as much. Wait, just wait, it gets better, I promise. But I didn't think it could get better. I loved this book so much. Same with The Cruel Prince. People said they hated the first book. The first book was like amazing. It was a masterpiece. I loved it so much. But this, this is insane. And by the way, guys, if you love like really slow burn, enemies to lovers, they're still enemies in the last book. Yes, they're still enemies, guys. Oh, it was so good. Okay, let me give you guys a quick read of the back before my camera dies. For as long as she can remember, Evangeline Fox has believed in a happy ever after. She learns the love of her life is about to marry another and her dreams are shattered. stop the wedding and heal her wounded heart, Evangeline strikes a deal with the I can't even say that word, but wicked Prince of Hearts. In exchange for his help, he asks for 3 kisses to be given at any time or place of his choosing. Evangeline's first promised kiss, she learns that bargaining with an immortal is a dangerous game, and that the Prince of Hearts wants far more than her, and she pledged. She has plans for Evangeline, plans that will either end the greatest happily ever after or the most exquisite tragedy. Anything, what I would give to read this book for the first time again is insane, but the second book, this is my favourite book in book history, okay? Nothing will beat this book. This book was absolute masterpiece. From the first page, I finished this in 2 days. 48 hours, and this was finished. And that is like unheard of for me. If I had the time, I would have read it in 1 day. 1 day I would have read it. But obviously, road trip right now in the Arctic, and obviously, I'm not just going to sit and read all day. But this book, I could not put it out. I could not put it down. I could not take it out of my hands. You would have to literally pry it out of my hands. Oh, it was so good. I was struggling, okay? It took me 4 days, I think, to read this because I was struggling to get into the first bit. And then when it got to about here, I finished it within a few hours. I was obsessed. It had me... I was literally dying. I loved it so much. I'm going to do like a silent review on TikTok if you want to go check that out of this trilogy. But OMG, this... I will never get over this book trilogy, and I 100% recommend reading this if you are a romancy. The camera died, so I've had to switch to my iPhone. But anyway, you will love reading after you read this trilogy. And if you think that like YA romance is not your thing because there's no spice in it, I promise you, give it a go. Try it, because the tension, everything about it is perfect beyond words. And I way prefer romance that doesn't have any smut in it compared to romance. But like, I read the Maple Hills Icebreaker series trilogy, like, was skipping chapters because I was like, this is just unnecessary. And chapters of smut and spice. I've moved on for that era. Read this. If you want your daughter to get into reading and you've watched this, then please get her these books because they are so good. Well, my big sister Isabel, she's 19 years old, and she just finished the Caraval trilogy, and now she already wants to read the What's Put a Broken Heart trilogy, and I'm going to borrow it to her and let her read it because she doesn't have it, and they obviously don't sell English books here in the Arctic. But it's for any age. Everyone on TikTok that I've seen do reviews on it are like past 20 years old or like in the late teens, almost 16 years old. I love this book so much, and my 12-year-old sister, I'm trying to get her to read it, but she's not really into reading. I just don't think it's really her thing. But I feel like if she read the right book, she read these books, she should become a reader. Anyway, I'm absolutely obsessed, and I really hope that she makes another fantasy trilogy because the way she writes, it's like I'm literally reading about a fairy tale. Every single time Jax opens his mouth, I have to tab it, okay? And the nicknames he calls the FMC Little Fox, and her name's Evangeline Fox. And she has pink hair. Here is some fan art on the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. That's not going to spoil anything. And if you're tempted to look up fan art, please don't. You will be spoiled something again, just like in Caraval. Jax and Evangeline, they are so cute. They are the true enemies to lovers, and it's so worth the read. Please, just do it. Anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my book review on these 2 trilogies. I really hope that I have inspired you guys to read these books because honestly they are so worth the read. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. If you want more book recommendation videos, go follow my TikTok because I'm going to be posting a lot more book recommendations on my booktok account. If you want more YouTube videos, then I'll do that too. Bye guys!